Hello, everybody, and welcome to this morning. We have a great guest with us today, Forrest, as you know. Maybe you don't know, Forrest Willett, and he's an author. He is a best-selling Amazon author. He does keynote speaking, inspirational speaker, has a great story, very inspirational. Just thinking about it right now just kind of brings a tear to my eye too, because it's so inspirational. So without further ado, I want you to welcome Forrest Willett. Oh, stop. No. Here we go. Now we can do it. There's Forrest. I almost ended the broadcast.
Oh, that's
I clicked on, I went a little bit too low and I clicked on that. That's not good. So, yeah, welcome, Forrest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad that you took time out of your busy schedule to be with us. And you just came back from Dominican Republic?
Yes. Yeah.
That's why you look so tan. And I look so pasty. Well, welcome back. Welcome back. For those that might not know your story, do you want to kind of fill us in a little bit on your story and how that all came to be?
Sure. What happened with myself, how I call it, I became an accidental speaker. I came along by accident, literally. And in 2002, I was a passenger in a car that left the road at a high rate of speed, and the driver was talking on a cell phone and lost control. And I woke up 10 days later with a catastrophic brain injury. So I didn't know who I was, where I was, just as if I was 31 years old in a 2-year-old body, relearning how to walk, how to talk, how to read and write again. And I just spiraled down into a deep pit of depression and anxiety. And it was a bad state of affairs for a few years. So I spent 5.5 years in rehabilitation, relearning all these life skills that we all take for granted. So every morning, all of you who are watching this, you probably got up this morning, jumped in the shower, send some text messages, say hi to friends, make coffee. Well, imagine if all of that was gone, just in a blink of an eye. So you need someone to help you get in the bathtub, someone to help you shave. There's no motor skills or functioning that you can do to operate a telephone. All of that was gone. So it was very depressing for several years. And I got to the point where I was so depressed, I didn't want to live anymore. And I was having these suicidal thoughts. And the thing was, I wouldn't reach out for any help, because I thought, if I reach out for help, then I lose my last little bit of dignity I have, because people will think I'm crazy if I see a psychiatrist. And I was lying in bed, and along came this television morning show, and they said, coming up next is Jack Canfield, creator of Chicken Soup from the Soul, and with his new book, The Success Principles, How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. And as I was lying there, I thought, I don't know where I want to be, but I don't want to be here anymore. So I sat up in bed and I pulled the covers off my face, and I thought, I'm going to listen to this guy for a minute. And he said, it doesn't matter your current circumstances, your background, or what you've been through in life. If you apply these principles, you can totally transform your life. And I called my wife into the room to write this guy's name down. I said, that cornfield guy, write his name down. So we ended up getting the book, and it took me just over 1.5 years to read the book with the help of a speech therapist. And everybody thought I was crazy, because I thought I could do all these things if I read this book. So after Jack was introducing his book, he asked a question: what would you do if there were no limitations, if anything were possible? And I'm lying there and I thought, wow, what would I do? Well, I would overcome depression and anxiety and help others overcome this problem. not only would I learn to read and write, I would become an author like this guy on TV. And I would also learn to speak fluently and become a speaker and share this story all over the world. And then that little guy in the back of your head is saying, yeah, right, how are you going to ever do this? I had no idea how I was going to do it. But I just thought, here's a little glimpse of hope for me. As long as I could keep moving forward in this book and applying these principles, my life started to improve and things got better. So I went from a life of devastation to happiness. Within a year and a half of reading this book, I got off all medications, all depression pills, anxiety pills, OxyContin, Percocets. I was taking quite a few of those because I had 14 different operations to rebuild my face, arms, hips, and legs. So then I became addicted to those because I didn't realize that once, not only do those pills soothe physical pain, they soothe emotional pain. And that's what I had, the pain of a broken heart. I wasn't the same person I used to be. And I was able to get off of all of those pills. And it was just such an amazing journey. And it has been ever since then. And I wouldn't go back and change anything. People often ask me that, would you change anything? Not once. I would not. So I started sharing my story with local groups, the March of Dimes at hospitals, and people were asking me, would you come and speak here? Would you speak there? And I thought, I don't know anything about speaking in public. I am working with a speech therapist to overcome my stuttering, and people are asking me to speak. And so I just went on the internet and looked up speaking, and Jack's name came up again. And I found myself, I enrolled in the Train the Trainer program, and it was one of the most wonderful things I've ever done. And I was afraid, I was nervous, I was skeptical, but I've leaned into it. I felt the fear, and I did it anyway. And it was just such an amazing thing, and my life since then has totally transformed.
So those first few, Train to Trainer, you're in one of the original first classes, weren't you?
Yes, I signed up in 2012.
Yeah, that had to be pretty inspiring.
It was. It was.
So in those first, so you start speaking, and are you out there? Are you charging right away, or are you?
No.
Okay.
Beginning, I was, because I thought I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to charge, and
Right.
The thought of people even paying me to speak, I just couldn't fathom this in my head. It was a dream I had, but I thought, how's this really going to happen? And so in the beginning, I did a lot of free talks, anywhere that people would have me, and at schools, different organizations, Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs, just basically anywhere. I just kept putting my name out there. Anybody
that would listen, that would have you come in.
And then
did you start out doing like half-hour talks, 1 hour talks?
Half-hour and 1 hour talks.
Yeah.
And what happened was the demand becomes so great that I couldn't give of my time that much anymore. So that's when I started charging. And it was within probably a few months of taking the first Train the Trainer live course, and before I came back for the second course, I had a check in my hand for $300 from the March of Dimes, who hired me to speak to 240 people at their annual conference. And I was so nervous that first time, and they said, would you speak at our conference? I thought maybe there's 10 or 12 people there, and I walked into this room, and I was shaking. I couldn't even read the paper. I was shaking so bad. So to overcome the nerves, I just told a little joke, and then when other people laughed, it calmed me down.
Yep.
And I thought, wow. So then I didn't even need the paper.
So you were going strictly off of notes, and that you didn't even have a PowerPoint or anything that you were working off of?
No.
which is pretty inspiring. And because it can happen, because I know it's happened to me, but I'm sure it's happened to you too, where you get there and the projector doesn't work or something doesn't work. And I mean, now I carry like all this equipment with me. But something, you know, so it's like you have to just kind of go, okay, well, let's go through it. Let's just keep going.
And that's happened to me several times. And that's, I just set up a table of a few little things behind me to share with things that I bring with me. And one of them is a projector, because I showed up and either they don't have a projector or they have the wrong cable. You might have an HDMI and they have a AV plug. So there's these things you should be prepared for.
Even the lumens. I've learned so much about lumens. Yes. I've gotten to places where they have like a 90 lumens, and that's the brightness of the bulb. If everybody else, or if you haven't bought a projector yet, and it's like you can't even see what's up on the screen at all. And so I've learned to bring my own in that too as a backup, if not the one. Just a couple of things. Janet says hi. She's here. Janet Wazowski.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna mispronounce her name. My last name's Stelma, so I can mispronounce everybody else's name. Who else is on here? Lisa from Train the Trainer Online says hello.
Hi, Lisa.
We got Erica too. Erica's there too. Hedmer, so she's out of Scandinavia. I don't know which country, but somewhere over there. Well, yeah. So then you did the speaking, and then what brought you in? What started you that you wanted to write your book?
I actually started writing the book when I was in this very depressed time of my life. And I started by writing notes to my son. Why Dad is acting like this. Why does Dad sleep so much? You know, I was 31 or 32 years old, sleeping more than my 2-year-old son.
Yeah.
And just your brain needs time to heal. And so I was sleeping a lot. And I just wanted him to understand when he grew up what I was going through at that time. You know, why is Dad angry? Why doesn't Dad hug me?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a lot of raw emotion that came out. And at first I thought, I want to write a book, but how do I do this? Because I couldn't read or write. You know, I was reading at a kindergarten level in my 30s after this brain injury, and reading books called Bernstein Bears.
Yeah.
And it was very humbling to restart just like a child. So I was in my doctor's office one day, and he had this microphone on his mouth, and he's speaking into the computer saying, male victim, 34 years old, MVA, traumatic brain injury. And as he's speaking, the words came across the screen. And I said, what's that? He said, it's Dragon Naturally Speaking. And I thought, wow, the light bulb went off. I can write a book. So that's how I wrote the book, was speaking into this dictation. So I couldn't, at the time, I don't like to say the word can't, but at the time I was unable to put from my brain to the keyboard, but I could say it. And so I spoke the whole book through dictation.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a great book for if anyone hasn't gotten Forrest's book yet. It's out there. Baseballs Don't Bounce.
Yes.
Did I say that right? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Lisa Palmer wants to say hi to you.
Big hugs, Lisa.
And I did get corrected. Janet said it's Wizawadi.
Love Janet.
Yeah, there you go. So you wrote that book, and then and I didn't know. I thought you wrote it after you went through all this. So that was okay. So that's pretty remarkable that you went to such lengths to get that out, which was great, though. So what did you on the technical side of it for everybody that's here, because we're a group of new people that are out there trying to figure it out. in the beginning in that too. So for new people, what was the steps that you took to get it into print? How to work that whole, to get it out to people?
Well, I believe in rejection, so I thought of sending it to publishers, and I thought, no, I can just do this myself. So the first thing I did was I printed 4,000 copies myself from a printer just outside of Toronto. And for 4,000 copies, I think it was $12,000. And all of a sudden I had these big skids of books in my garage. And I thought, oh no, what am I going to do with all these books? And so as I was out doing talks, I was selling these books. And I thought there has to be a better way, because what happened was, if somebody in California would order a book for $20, it cost me $23 to ship it to them. So I was losing money shipping these books. And so after I sold all the 4,000, I went to Create Space, which is owned by Amazon, where you can make your own book, and it costs next to nothing. And you can order one book, or you can order 1,000 books. It's the same price. And what happens is they print it on demand, they ship it for you, they take care of everything, and then they send you a check every 3 months for your royalties.
Yeah. And then you have the second book that's out. Yes. Janet's going to promote it for you here. Oh, wait, that was the wrong. I clicked on here we go. There's Janet's. Great book, Love 12 Hugs.
Yes.
There you go.
Kids' book, and actually the everyone in it is from Train the Trainer or Breakthrough to Success. All of the characters in the book, and it was amazing, because the hug process that we did at the first Train the Trainer, I wanted to run out of the room because I was not used to hugging at all in my life. I didn't receive any hugs growing up. And it was just so foreign to me. But again, I felt the fear. I stayed in the room, and I thought, wow, I broke down crying. I thought, wow, this is what it feels like to be loved, and by people that I didn't know. It was just unconditional love. And that was just such an amazing feeling. And I hope everyone in the world gets to experience that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you do that. I was at BTS this last August, and it was something that I've done throughout my lifetime. But it was an amazing experience watching others, without mentioning names and that, but others that just were the same way. Walked to the back of the room and just kind of stood there, and then over the days, we're looking for that. Like, what we have to stop. It's amazing experience. Yeah. But thank you for writing that book too. And Elisa says, love the notes to your son. I never did that, but had to say, mommy is doing this because, so she never wrote the notes, but she, had to say the words. But yeah, that's very inspirational that way too. Yeah. So what, for someone starting out new, what would be some suggestions, beyond perseverance and reject the rejection? What's some other suggestions that you can give someone starting out new?
I would say get out there and get speaking. The more you speak, the more you will speak. And what I mean by that is that I've never had anyone say, oh, I've seen your website and I want to hire you to come and speak here. That's never happened to me once. It may happen to other people. And I've had, a few years back, I paid someone to do a website for me, and it cost thousands of dollars, and it was just, I feel I was taken, and it didn't work out for me. So this time I've made just my own website on GoDaddy, very inexpensive, so as people can contact me. and just get out there and get speaking. There's so many places that would enjoy to have a speaker come out and share these principles. I'm sure you're saying everyone on the talk today has either been in Train the Trainer or taking Train the Trainer online.
Most have, most have. We have other that are in the group that come from like Tony Robbins and different aspects too, that are just but the common theme is we're all striving to be life coaches and or speakers, authors, and all the good marketing that kind of goes along with it.
And that's great. Everyone's out there to help people. And I always remember this woman. I volunteered for a long time at an old age home. And the woman there once said to me, everyone wants to change the world, but nobody wants to change the toilet paper roll. And, and it's so true. Where so many of us, we want to make this big impact, but we don't want to do these little things like change the toilet paper roll or get out there and knock on doors, or sometimes we wait for something big and amazing to happen. Well, we have to get off our butts and get out there and introduce ourselves. And that's how I became an overnight speaking sensation, like a 10-year overnight. Was getting out there, knocking on doors, going to Rotary clubs. And at the end of my talks, every talk, I would say, by a show of hands, how many of you here in this room feel better about yourself now than when you came? And most people put up their hands. And so I say, if you know of anyone that would benefit from one of these, a talk similar to this, I would love it if you would refer me. And so by asking for that referral, I've got lots of referrals. And somebody in Toronto may know somebody in Vancouver, British Columbia, or Los Angeles that say, you have to hire this person. And that's how it's all happened, is referral. And it's just getting out there and hitting the ground. And it's nervous. You get nervous, you get a little bit anxious, thinking, oh, what am I doing? And you question yourself. And in the beginning, what I was doing was I'd watch the Jack or the Tony Robbins on the DVDs, and I would try and be like them, but it wasn't me, and I didn't feel comfortable. And I shared that with Jack on I think it was my second time back to the Train the Trainer course, and he gave me probably the best advice I've ever received in my life, and he said, just be you. Be yourself. And that really sunk in, because I thought, here I am saying, well, if I said you had green hair, would you be upset? And I was saying word for word the things Jack would say, but that's Jack, and it wasn't me. And I would never say some of these things. So all of a sudden I thought, okay, I'm just going to be me. So the next talk I did, I was just me. And I felt so great. I got a standing ovation, and it felt so good. And I thought, wow, you don't have to be somebody else. You can use Jack's tools, Tony's tools, all these other great trainers. You can use their tools and their implementations, bring them with you, but be you. And when you're just being yourself, there's not a person in the world that wouldn't fall in love with you when you're just being yourself and being authentic.
Right. Yeah, and you can start using their stories, but everybody thinks that they don't have a story worth telling. When they start out with this, it's like, oh, I'll use I'll use Forrest's story, or I'll use, because mine's just not dramatic enough. I did that too, and it's like I was amazed and I had a heart valve replaced, and it meant I was just like, I knew it was going to happen, and and I didn't think anything of it, that this would be an inspirational story to someone. But then I started out with that story of how the doctor contacted me and said it was time to have the heart valve done. And it was amazing. After that talk, one of the couples that were in the audience came over and said, my husband's going to have that done. Would you mind sitting down with us and kind of walking us through it? And it was just one of those magic moments, that happened, and you just never know. So we all have stories. That's the point. Yeah.
Every single person has a story, and you don't know how many people in the audience, Dave, that you inspired that day that didn't get up to speak to you.
Right.
That are at home talking about you, and so don't be afraid to share your story. And in my talks, I also get really vulnerable really fast, and that creates a safe space to say to people that, hey, I'm just a normal person just like you, and there's many stories and that you can use, that you can share, that even don't have to be about a person. And there's one story I share at all my talks. And do you have 2 minutes? I'm not sure how much time we have.
Yeah, I have all the time. It's up to you.
And share this picture with you. This is the one I tried to send you.
Yeah.
On an email. I'm not sure if you can. I don't know if you see it or if it's.
Yep. It's a dog doing push-ups, it looks like.
Okay, so what I'll say to people is this will come up on the screen, and I'll share with the audience. I'll say, by a show of hands, can anyone tell me what's wrong with this dog? And people will put their hands up, and they'll say, it's stretching, or it has bad hips, dysplasia, arthritis. And I say, well, the actual story behind this is a 8-week-old German Shepherd pup, and its mother was hit by a car when it was pregnant. And because the mother was pregnant, the veterinarian couldn't put the dog under without risking losing the pups. And so they made her as comfortable as possible. When the pups came out, they were dragging their hind legs. And so if the owner just assumed that the pups were injured when the mother was hit by the car. So a few weeks went by, and the owner thought, we'll take them to the veterinarian office to get them checked out. And within 3 days, the dogs were walking around normal. They did x-rays and an examination. There was nothing wrong with the pups at all. See, they were just doing what their mother did. And how many of us in this room are doing what we've seen as children, whether it's neglect, abuse, addiction? Many of us in life are dragging our hind legs from things that happen or things that we've seen as children. And so the principles and ideas I'll share with you today, I hope will stop you from dragging your hind legs and help you get up and walk on your own. That's a simple story you can share, and I'll share this picture with you and all of your audience. You feel free to use the story, and it's very impactful because there's so many people come up to me afterwards and go, wow, I was like that pup. I've been dragging my hind legs for 40 years. Or, I was like that. My father was abusive, so I went to an abusive husband to abusive husband. And so many people share stories, and they can really relate. And it's only a story about a puppy, but we can all relate to that in some way.
Janet's hooked. She says, great message. There you go. She's at least in your top 5 of fans.
Well, I love Janet too.
Janet's told me that. So go, and that's a great story. And what I'll do is I'll put that down in the comments. I'll put that picture down in the comments after this, this edits out or broadcasts out. And if anybody does have questions, you can put those in the comments section too. We can flash those up if you have questions for Forrest. And Forrest, how much more time do you want to give us? Or I know you're
as much time.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So we'll definitely, if we'll go up to the top of the hour. So what do you use for marketing yourself? You get out there. Do you use an agent? Do you do it all yourself?
I do it all myself, and I'm happy with that. And what I do is ask for referrals.
Mm-hmm.
So this, not this coming week, February 28th, I'm speaking at a school in Simcoe County. And they've hired me several times. They hired me over 20 times last year, not just in the school board, but in the welfare department, the roads department. It's a big county, and I believe there's 180,000 employees
Oh,
that work
wow.
for the county. So they like the message that I share, and as I said before, I was trying to be Jack, and I was just sharing the success principles and this and straight, and I thought, that's not me. What I am is I want to teach emotional success.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people think, well, to be successful, you need a big house and big car. But if you can't get out of bed and drag your butt to work without feeling good about yourself, none of this money will ever matter. So I share with people how to use the success principles to create emotional success and emotional success in the workplace. Because right now, mental health problems are number one reason people miss work these days. And it used to be injuries and, I hurt my back or I slipped at work. Now it's depression, anxiety. It's a big issue. And I coach people to overcome these obstacles by doing a lot of Jack's work, which is sharing with each other, creating a safe space, building self-esteem, just getting people working together, because so many people, they've lost this connection where at work you used to say, hey Bob, hey Joe, and talk. Now people just talk through a text. They could be sitting in the cubicle next to you and texting each other instead of standing up and saying, oh, would you like to come for a barbecue next Thursday? The human connection is almost a thing of the past, and it's really sad. So I like to bring the people back together, and it makes me feel really great when I leave the workplace. I was doing one-on-one coaching, and again, like they say, the demand became so big. Now I do one-to-many because there just wasn't enough time in a day just to do for myself the one-on-one coaching, which is great.
So do you do that in person as far as a keynote, or how do you?
I do it in keynote and workshops.
Okay. 1 day workshops, 2 day workshops?
Sometimes I'll come back like 3 or 4 times, like at the hospital.
Okay.
And not just the hospital, but other places. So that right now there's a lot of nurses that are going through a lot of problem. They're overworked,
Mm-hmm.
and they're expected to do more with less because they're cutting so much from the budgets at all the hospitals. So they're cutting corners, and when you cut corners, you make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want someone at a hospital making a mistake on you?
Mm-hmm. No.
And when we cut corners, we make mistakes. It's a lot of times because you have so much going on here and you're feeling so stressed.
No.
And so I use these principles. How do we reduce stress in the workplace? Let's talk. Ask for what you want. Well, I could use some help down on the second floor. Well, ask. So let's open it up. And what do you want to ask for? And what do you want to ask for? And we'll do a heart talk.
Mm-hmm.
This is where things are lacking. And it's helping where they bring the nurses and the doctors and hospital staff together where they can have an open communication without he said this or she said that. And it's wonderful. It's great to go in a place that treated me and help them out also.
And when you go in and you do the workshops and you're doing any of those, when do you brand it as your own, or do you just and make reference to this? You got it from the success principles, or I know that's a confusing aspect. People are like, how do I utilize it, or how do I reference it?
I share that the work comes from the Success Principles book,
Mm-hmm.
and then Jack taught me the principles, and then I'll just tailor it to whatever whatever it is that you want to talk about. Like I was hired to go to Dubai. I was the keynote speaker at Dubai Airport's Safety and Security Awards last year. So there's 1,280 people, sheiks and statesmen, and just unbelievable size of a room to talk about safety, reducing stress in the workplace. And I used these principles, and we talked about pre-mortem and post-mortem. For a post-mortem is what went wrong. How'd the person die? Well, a pre-mortem is what can we do to stop it from happening?
Mm-hmm.
And so, because you may not know, but in Dubai, there's so much stress, anxiety, and suicide. It's very stressful. They do make a lot of money. It's a beautiful country, but it's a very high stress rate for a lot of the people working there. They're spending so much time away from home. There's people from Canada, India, China, all over the world working there, but they're spending 45 to 48 weeks a year away from their families. And that's very stressful. So,
is there any kind of a communication breakdown when you do something of that sort? Well, I can see there's a communication breakdown probably between Canada and United States almost, depending upon where you go. But yeah, when you go over to Dubai or a foreign country of that, do you find that you have to change how you say things, or?
No, the only, so I've spoken India, the Philippines, London, England, Dubai, and we use the same talk, the same principles. It works all over the world. And the only thing that didn't work in Dubai, in which I was pulled into the security office right when I arrived there, don't hug anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't hug a woman, you don't shake her hand unless she puts her hand out first. And I was respectful of that, and it's a beautiful country, and that was the only difference. So some countries have a religion where they don't, you don't touch a woman, and you just be respectful of that. And when I share the hug process in my talks, every talk I do the hug process, and I'll share with people, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, right up front, so that people don't feel that
right
they're being forced into this, especially with today's day and age of what's going on with our world. And I think it's horrible, but we should still enjoy some hugs.
Right. So mainly doing the speaking. You have the books that are out there. Do you utilize the books as a marketing tool? Did you find that early on that was a way to get the foot in the door anywhere, or did it go the opposite way? Or
absolutely, the book was I call it an expensive business card.
Mm-hmm.
And so someone say, well, this just happened last week. The First Nations community about 3 hours north of here is looking for a speaker to come up sometime in April. And so I looked up the health manager and I mailed her a copy of my book. And so it does help you get your foot in the door, and gives you more credibility, whether it's a skinny book or a thick book. Like your book could be 50 pages.
Mm-hmm.
You've written a book and you say, well, Dave wrote the book on this. Let's hire him. And so it's definitely been a great help.
And that's a good point to make, that it could be as little as 50 pages or it could be a novel, either way, because so many people get overwhelmed of, I got to have a book now, and it's like, okay, so I'm going to hold off on speaking and doing keynotes or going out and talking to people until I have my book done, or, you put these hurdles up in front of yourself. Yeah. Any suggestions? I know there's no one way to do things, but from your experience?
You could even start with a pamphlet.
Mm-hmm.
And, you could share some of the principles that you teach in your talk, and then maybe an outline of them. And here's a little pamphlet, and here's my name, here's a pamphlet about what I speak about. And basically, a book is a thick pamphlet.
Right.
So don't be afraid to just start out with a little colored pamphlet or
You know,
something like
start
that.
out from where you're at and just go and
Yeah.
do. Yeah. I think action is probably the biggest key to all of that.
Yes.
Start making some phone calls, taking some action, and getting out there and just doing it. Because the first time you talk, like you said, you're shaking, you're nervous, it took a while to get into the comfort aspect and to be able to have different stories to tell to the audiences.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now to be asked to go to speak in all these different places is just great. I was asked to do a talk for mental health and youth at Osgoode Hall Law School in Toronto, which is a very prestigious law school. And I did that talk for free. And out of it, there was a lot of educators. So I was hired from 2 different schools just from doing that one free talk. Hired by 2 different schools, and I've done those talks at those schools, and they were both great. So anytime a lot of times people say, oh, I'm not doing free talks, and I will. And you know what? I'm not afraid to do that, because that will open another door and another door, and it's just been great. And when you give, the more you will receive in return. And give without expectation of anything in return. I went there not even thinking of, would I get referrals or anything, but it happened.
That's amazing to me, and inspiring all in the same. Because some people are always, you get into some groups on Facebook and they're like, oh no, you got to charge more, and you got to do, they tell you, you to start just, going out there, running like a business, and that. And it's like, it really boils down to, you just go follow your heart on some of these things. It's like, you just go out there and a lot of times just doing will bring things, to you that way. Janet says, do you ever send out a YouTube video?
Yes, I do.
And then
I have a few YouTube videos that I send out.
And do you send them out preemptively to as far as organizations and that as an opening, or do you generally, it's like if someone asks about, do you have anything as far as background or then
yeah, if someone says, can we see anything, or can we find out more about you, then I'll send out a YouTube video. The other thing I do, which may sound strange, is that if sometimes if people are unsure and they're, well, we don't know, or we haven't heard much about you, like if they say it was just referred that, we should have you speak here, I'll say, well, if you're unsure and you're not happy, I'll give you all of your money back. And no one has ever asked for their money back, but I offer it. If you're not happy with what I present, and if you're not happy with the end result, I'll give you all your money back. And then that's closed the deal a lot of times, where people say, okay, I'll hire you.
Anne wants to know, how many talks do you do per month?
Last year, I would say I did 4 to 6 a month. And then the last 8 months, I've taken off. I've just built this new home that I just moved into. So I took some time away for myself. So I was only doing 1 to 2 a month while I was building this home. Be doing 2 in this next month, like within the next 4 weeks, 2 more talks. And when I stepped away from it while I was building this house, and by the way, if you ever, if anyone's attended Breakthrough to Success, or there's a workbook, and it was from 2013, and I have it, and it says that I wanted to buy Drums Farm and overlooking Georgian Bay and the Blue Mountains. And because it was in your 7 goals that you write down, and I wrote this down and not thinking anything, and I put it away. And then I had some people from Train the Trainer, Sabina, she came, Tommaso from Italy, and Al and May from Niagara Falls came to visit me this summer while I was building the house, and they were with me when I wrote this goal down. And that's where I'm living now, is in this house that I described in that. I had no idea how I would achieve that. It was just a dream. You know, what would you do if there were no limitations? And so I wrote it down, and I'm sitting here in this house now overlooking the Blue Mountains and Georgian Bay. So it's important that you share that with the people you're speaking with also, is to write down your goals. Write them down and share them with people.
It is amazing. Lisa says, every time I think I'm not doing enough, you always make me feel better, and I recognize I'm doing just great.
You are, Lisa.
There you go.
And that's the thing where I didn't think I was doing enough, and I thought, wow, I just had to sit back and learn to love and accept myself where I am and for who I am, and flaws and all. This is me, and so maybe I do stutter still, and maybe I'm not perfect, and I don't. That's why pencils have erasers on them. Nobody's perfect.
Oh, that's a good one. I got to write that one down. Yeah.
Nobody.
It's amazing how people, and I tell people all the time, just go and do. Don't worry about. That's like I do Facebook Live show and all that stuff. And in the beginning, we're all worried about how our hair looks and do I look good on camera and do I have to do. It's just the content is more. It means much more to the people that you're talking to than how you look. You know, yes. and all of that. And I mean, to a degree, we don't want to go out there too disheveled and that, but I mean, really the content is going to be what shines through.
Absolutely. And that's what I've really taken home also, is something from Jack that he said that sticks with me. And I see it every time I speak, is that a lot of times people won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a talk in Toronto in November, so just a few months ago, 250 people, this big auditorium, and everyone in the room was crying, and it was so amazing. It was, and I had so much positive feedback after that, and I've been asked to come and speak to several different places since then. And it's by being yourself, being authentic, and allowing others to feel safe. And it's okay to cry. But they laughed, they cried, they laughed again. And it was just, that for me made me decide, wow, I have to get back into this full time, because I stepped away to do this house project, and I realized that was my passion, is being in the rooms with the people. You know, there was a time I thought I wanted to be alone, and it turns out I just had to find out where I belonged, and that's in those rooms with the people, sharing with them these principles and these ideas that, you know, you are wonderful just the way you are.
Mm-hmm. That's a great thought, just to leave them with.
Yes.
You know, because so many times you go and see motivational speaker, inspirational, you get out, you know, they're there to rev you up, you know, everybody's dancing and having high-fiving and everything, and then it's like you leave the event and you're like, now what? And we get that a little bit with Train the Trainer. I mean, everyone, we want to go out there and we want to help change the world. And then it's like, okay, now wait, how do we start? What do we do? Yeah. And then there's great people like you, Forrest, that put on the video that you put on. Oh my gosh, was that a year ago or so on Train the Trainer? Okay, here's the setup, because everybody was asking a question. What do you take? What do we use for speaking in that? Here's the setup, and you went through that whole thing. I think that's been recycled so many times.
Yeah, and it's great, and the Train the Trainer program has totally transformed my life. And like I said, I didn't set out to be a speaker. Mm-hmm. I answered that question that one day Jack said, what would you do if there were no limitations? And then what happened was I shared this idea that I'm going to be a speaker. Well, you're stuttering like Yosemite Sam. You're hard to understand because sometimes you can't put a full sentence together. And how are you going to be a speaker? I'm going to do it. And then I was more and more pumped to do it. And I thought, what am I doing? Am I doing this for me, or am I doing it because people said I couldn't do it? And then I realized, wow, I love this. And it fills my heart and makes me feel so good. And I just love what I do every day. It's so amazing. And it's such a wonderful life.
Do you want to tell us about your family too?
Yes. I have a wife, and I've been married for 20 years. It'll be 21 years in May. My son, he's just finishing his last year of high school. So he'll be starting college in the fall. He would like to be a police officer. And so he's going to college for the police program. And I'm not sure if he wants to be a police officer because his girlfriend's father's a police officer.
Oh.
Whatever he wants to be. If he wants to be a pot maker, I'll support him. If he wants to be the best ceramic pot maker in the town, that's fine.
I was going to say, you have to define ceramic pot maker.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure I said pot maker.
It's all getting legalized in the United States now. Lindsay came on and he said, when we're moving forward, we are always enough, and others will listen if they are in tune with your message. Exactly.
Yes, that's right, Lindsay. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will, like I've been back to different companies and corporations a few times, and it might be the second or third time somebody will say, wow, it sounded like you were just speaking to me today. And because it was just the right time, you said the right thing at the right time, and you may have said the same thing 3 other times. They either weren't listening or they weren't ready to hear what you wanted to say or what you had to share. And it's so amazing. And that's where where I'm so grateful and fills my heart is the feedback you get from people, not the money. And, people say, well, what would you do for free? If you won $50 million, I'd do what I'm doing right now. And that's a great thing, is to help people and see people grow, and it's amazing.
It is. And to reach you, I have it pulled up there now, forrestwillett.com.
Yes.
Just go there, and they can contact you through there. They can they buy your books through there, or is that through Amazon?
They can go through Amazon.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can go there. Go ahead.
On the website. They might be able to on the website.
There might be a link there, but I know I found them on Amazon, so you can definitely go there. And they're quick, fast, and in a hurry on the Amazon. I love them. Janet just wants to say thanks for being here, maybe. But thanks for being. And we've come to the top of the hour, and I want to thank you for giving us your time. And thanks for sharing and being a great role model. That's what you want to put in there. She hit send too soon. Ann says the same thing. Thank you both for taking time out of your weekend to share this great info. Yeah, that's what we do. And that's the amazing thing with Train the Trainer and what Jack has developed. And you are a large part of that, Forrest. There's so much sharing, and people, it's not one of those groups where it's like we're gonna hide the secret sauce, and if you want to pay us, X trillion dollars, we'll reveal the it's we're here to help each other. We want to get this information out and inspire people to make it a better world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone has any questions, I'd love to come back and answer any questions anyone has, or if you'd like to talk again.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will say, well, I'd like to know more about this, or I'd like to know more of marketing, or how do I send out a speaker sheet, or the agreement, how do I do that, to get someone to sign a document. So there's lots of different questions people may have.
And as they come up, let us know, or I'll let you know if we can come back and revisit this and maybe with more specific questions and that the group might have, that'd be great. We'd appreciate that. Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you everybody for coming along today. And Ann wants to put hugs out to both of us. So hugs right back at you, Ann.
Thanks, Ann. Big hugs to you.
Yeah. Virtual hugs back at you. So thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Yeah. Bye.